Sonic in 2023 has already been enough of a crazy ride. We have received several games from Sonic Frontiers to Sonic Dream Team, and in the current rumor mill of Sonic games, it sounds like the release schedule isn't slowing. There's been quite a few rumors going around that has a lot to do with Shadow, and even just recently at the time of this video, Sonic Movie 3 has had a lot of storyboard leaks as well as the Knuckles show. So there's a lot happening with Sonic and specifically with Shadow. 2024 seems to be the year of Shadow. And honestly, I think that's pretty exciting because I have not really enjoyed the way Shadow has been handled within the last few years. It's honestly about that time that Shadow gets his spot in the limelight and hopefully gets treated properly. Before, it felt like Shadow faded into becoming like Vegeta from Dragon Ball, and that wasn't really fitting for Shadow's character. Starting in Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow was a lot different than how he is portrayed now. He was never really this edgelord. He was just serious and had a plan and executed it, and didn't really have time for his emotions, but that's besides the point. Let's talk about this rumored Sonic and Shadow game and also how they should treat Shadow going forward. So before we actually read everything that this leak says, this leak comes from Zippo from about a month ago. I know Zippo's a little notorious in the Sonic community, but he's never necessarily been wrong about something coming. He's always caught wind of a game that is coming, but the details have always been a little messy. Or maybe plans have changed for developers, such as for Sonic Superstars. He told us a 2D game was coming, but he just didn't think it was going to be classic. He thought it was going to be a modern 2D game like Sonic Advanced. So I'm just putting that out there. I don't think to take Zippo necessarily with a grain of salt, but I think he's literally just the messenger, and a lot of people don't really understand that. He's not making these leaks in his mother's basement. I think someone's just giving him information that he knows. That's what a lot of these leakers do. They have friends that know people, or they're direct friends with people that work at places. But with that out of the way, let's read the Zippo article real quick before we talk about everything that I want to talk about. A new traditional 3D Sonic game will release in 2024. Welcome back to Zipmas. We have a lot to talk about regarding the TGAs, which was the Game Awards. So next up is the Blue Blur himself. If you watched Sega's TGA hype trailer, you notice that they teased 5 games throughout, but you'll also notice that they used a very familiar ring sound. And that wasn't for no reason. Thought everyone's favorite Hedgehog was getting a break next year? Nope. Which, obviously this is something we knew already. We knew there's going to be more Sonic games in 2024. As part of Sega's New Era initiative, a new traditional 3D Sonic will release this holiday. I'm hearing this game is being billed as a follow-up of sorts of Colors, Generations, Lost World, and Forces rather than 2022 Sonic Frontiers, which is a completely new branch for the series as a whole and will sprout its own follow-up in due time. It's going to be much smaller scale though. This is going to be a simple run and jump 3D Sonic game developed for next-gen consoles only. No open zone this time. It's going to be the first Sonic title to release on Nintendo's new system. Now I have no idea if this is an adventure styled game or a boost styled game. It would be foolish of me to swing either way on that right now. When I have word on that, you'll be the first to know. The game is being developed by Sonic Team with a code development assistance from Sega's new Sapporo studio. The last thing I can comment on today is that the game will feature Shadow alongside the Blue Blur, considering Shadow was a complete no-show in both Sonic Frontiers and Dream Team, as well as the very obvious close release timing to next year's movie, which Shadow will play a prominent role in. It's safe to assume that there's going to be some corporate synergy going on here. Sega is planning for a gigantic 2024 alongside this new Sonic game. The revival of Jet Set Radio and a new Super Monkey Ball game are all set to release next year. So now that we have read through Zippo's leaks, I think it's time to talk about, does this actually seem legit? Well, first off, I want to say I think a Sonic and Shadow game can totally happen just because of the movie. Movies have a lot of power when it comes to casual audiences and casual sales and marketing for merchandise. Movies are very powerful, more so even than video games, I think, in that aspect. Despite video games having the biggest market compared to movies and music, they will 100% for a fact eat off of merchandise sales through this movie for Shadow. Just Shadow alone. Kids, teenagers, and even adults are going to want Shadow merch. That's just going to be the phenomenon after this movie, especially if it's a good movie. Which, let's hope that it's a good movie and they don't mess up Shadow and the SA2 storyline or what they're taking from it. So that alone, I think, is something to really think about when it comes down to a Sonic and Shadow game being created, because it just makes the most sense on Sega's part to capitalize off of that for their games, because they know it's going to be a big deal. So if you put the character that's going to be a big deal in the movie into a game, which he hasn't been in a game in a long time, since Forces, and let's be honest, him being a free DLC on day one, I don't think was very exciting, compared to being a main character in the game that's actually a part of the game. So yeah, I think that makes complete and total sense. And on top of that, we have already known that more Sonic games are coming, and it's been rumored that 2024 was going to feature some more games. But again, because of the movie's existence, it almost feels like it's pointing at this being the case. If you have read some of Sega's plans that they have released, their shareholder public information or whatever it is that they have released in those large documents, their whole plan and game plan, especially with Sonic, is brand synergy. They want to have Sonic be a multimedia franchise that just dominates in every single corner. And of course, tying in with the movie is the most #1 easy thing to do and just get sales off of. And Shadow's also one of the most popular Sonic characters, probably within the top 5, maybe even top 3. Now, from a business perspective, that does make sense. And don't worry, I'm not just talking out of thin air. I know a little bit about business. That's what my college degree is in. But I also think all that is also just common sense. So, but what about it actually making sense on Sega's front? So Zippo claims that they are using their new studio, Sapporo Studio, to help develop this game, or basically just be the main developers. I'm not sure, that's not entirely clear, but Sapporo Studio just opened in 2022. Now that does not mean they could not be working on this game, and it does seem to be a smaller budget game, of course, from what they're saying, but because of them opening up so recently in January of 2022, I don't see the game coming out anytime soon, but more towards the end of the year or maybe even into 2025. Sonic Movie 3 is slated for December, right? So that game coming afterwards also probably isn't out of the picture. Could definitely be a 2025 game. But I definitely think that's something to think about. As yes, this could be a reality, but I do think it is a little strange for them to start up a studio and then get cooking that quickly and be done that quick. That doesn't give me much faith in the game, as maybe they're just rushing to get it done before Sonic Movie 3. And that's not necessarily what we want. We want a good quality game no matter how big or small the budget is. I'm not saying that's going to be the case, because again, if they do take that extra year to land to 2025, they would have been probably working on this game for about 3 years. I'm not really making a huge point here with that, but I'm more so just saying, we'll have to see on that front. Because it could be either way. It could be they're not working on it at all, or they are working on it and they could be rushing it, or maybe not. Who really knows? But that's just what I'm saying. And I'm going to be 100% honest, I don't think the boost is going anywhere. I think this Sonic and Shadow game is going to probably be a boost game. Zippo doesn't necessarily know if it's going to be adventure style or boost style, but I highly believe this is going to be another boost game. Dream Team was a boost game, Frontiers was a boost game. It feels like that era isn't really over yet, and I think the only way that would change is if we got Adventure 1 and 2 remakes, and then Sega's like, wow, people really love this. Hopefully the game is actually a good game if it's real. I think this will be something that people are really waiting for. I also think Kirk Thornton as Shadow deserves another chance to truly portray Shadow in a serious light, because I'm probably in the minority of people that think he sounds great as Shadow, because I just think he's a great voice actor overall. And the way he sounded in Sonic Forces, specifically in episode Shadow, the voice direction is just a lot different than what he's been given. Kirk Thornton has mostly played a goofy Shadow because the voice direction called for it. But when he's talking the way he talks in episode Shadow, it sounded pretty great. Also, I just like his voices in other games and media. And he voices a character in Kingdom Hearts, which is basically like Kingdom Hearts' Shadow, if I'm being honest. At least out of the organization members, if you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, Sonic and Shadow game, probably likely. I don't know how many details from this Zippo thing will end up being true, as usual. But I think this is definitely on to something. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. And like always, I'll see you in the next one.
Well, whatever happens, happens.